Alright YouTube, I have not done a video on this low of battery, so we're going to see how this works out. I wrote a short paper, and it's a theory I've based on just a bunch of different information I've gathered through my experience. And I want to talk about the consciousness, capacity, and its influence on its environment, so its environmental integrity. So what is this? What is consciousness? To be conscious means to be aware, to have an understanding of, more importantly, to be aware within an environment, a place of interaction. This awareness connects to some sort of interface. So I am this conscious ability, and I am living within this human interface of I have human senses, I have, all the characteristics of a human. I walk in the human body, got a human heart, all that shit. Human state of mind, more importantly, priority list, and state of influence within my environment. So this awareness connects to an interface, and that interface exists within an external environment so that it can interact with others. With the introduction of this interface, the consciousness will breed a state of an intellectual mind or an egotistical mind in order to understand kind of where it exists within its environment, so it can gather its information and understand that, that things are hot, that thing has teeth, it'll bite you, this shit, that type of thing. It has to understand that, that a seed can grow. It has to breed a state of intellectual capability so that it can actually use its interface properly. So the mind is this often referred to as ego, or this intellectual capability of consciousness. And I think that we have that ego in order to, I think it's supreme contradiction, because I think we breed the ego in order to actually have integrity with our environment. But our ego is the primary source of all internal conflict, which is as above, so below. You got a little bit of vice versa there. So the ego allows the unit to understand its magnitude of possibility within its environment. So it allows the unit to understand how much potential influence it has over another thing. This state of superiority or inferiority to another. This comparative evaluation that helps us understand kind of our place in nature. So I think the higher the ego can climb the ladder of environmental influence, the more it will start to exclude itself from the rest of the environment and see itself as this particular, superior thing, this godlike thing. And I think that's where humans are a lot of times, is that we separate ourselves from animals, plants, and fungal, and even though to the definition we're very similar, on a conscious level, we see ourselves as superior because we can go and, uproot trees. We can move mountains, quite literally. We are very capable of influencing this environment, and it breeds a state of exclusive entanglement of the self. It's this, and once you exclude yourself from another piece of your environment, you're shutting out information of potential growth. And that is very important to the conscious unit, is the underlying, always transitional phase of I have it written down somewhere that I like this way, of this temporary, transitory state of harmonization that we're in. We are connecting with others, especially ourselves, connecting with ourselves in our interface in order to appreciate this understanding of this underlying force of all, of now, or of consciousness, whatever you want to call, of God, air quotes God. It doesn't matter. There's really not a good term for it. It's all a standard of reference. So here's a good metaphor, kinda. Is like a human can step on an ant, okay? But an ant, due to its environmental influence and its interface, cannot even comprehend the magnitude of a human, right? But in my opinion, just because they have different physical interfaces doesn't mean that the ant is more conscious than the human, or the human is more conscious than the ant. I think that they are both exactly the same in their capacity of consciousness, but I think that they are varied and different due to the interface of the way it interacts with its environment. So that's really all I got to talk about in this video. Keep it kind of short and simple, but I guess where if I could end this video with something is understand that you, if you're reading or listening to this, you're probably human. So you got big hands, you got big monster feet, you know, you got a big brain that can change a lot of things. So understand why you live in this place and you live in your interface, that you are held accountable and responsible for the way that you environmentally influence consciously. In my opinion, this is all opinion in reality. But I think that always keeping a good intention is very key to developing successfully without the potential for resistance. I hope that with my influence, with my interface, that I allow myself to always flow in the right direction, to always see the things as they desire to be seen. To an extent, just realize that just because you have this illusion of superiority over something like a fish, or like an insect, or even a little plant, a little bug, whatever, that everything's alive. And it's all conscious. And that you may have your interface that you think is divine, but another unit has its own interface that it thinks is equally divine. So, keep doing what you're doing. It's pretty far that, it's not pretty far, but it's pretty wild that humans are even able to kind of like, because this is all conceptual, it's all using language and this manifestation of expression. None of it, I mean, like, yes, this is feelings, but I'm interpreting it and I'm expressing it, so that's ego in a lot of ways. It's kind of crazy that the ego has disciplined itself through humanity to a way where it can actually assess itself and be like, this is why I exist. This is what I'm doing. But I think the ego's here to make us ride the waves and appreciate this roller coaster, so we're not stuck in this constant, what am I, and who is this, and because if we didn't have this intellectual mind, we'd be lost in this maze of nothingness and everything at the same time. So, see you later, YouTube. Be good.